it reminds me of this whenever Warcraft 3 comes up. It reminds me of this because Warcraft 3, and this is confirmed by the current CEO, the previous CEO, and the numerous executives at Blizzard. Warcraft 3 was held because of the launch of Battle Realms.
Really?
Because Battle Realms, which was my first game, was trying to address a lot of these issues. And one of the things we introduced was the concept of heroes on the battlefield. We introduced we called them Zen Masters in our game. But we had this concept of heroes that were more powerful than the grunt units. And when we launched the game, they bought all the copies in Irvine and they played it and they said, yeah, this is a better game. We need to delay and improve our game.
Wow.
And that's when heroes got introduced to Warcraft 3. That's when a lot of changes happened to Warcraft 3 that made it the success it is today. And, or was until they released the remaster.
I think I did my due diligence, but I did not know about that. That's quite something.
So it was a huge feather in my cap when I found it out years later.
Oh yeah, of course.
When I ran into people, when I talked to people from Blizzard, and they were like, "Yeah, Battle Realms was the game that really kind of put us on notice and said, holy crap, we got to up our
maybe 10 seconds back. Yeah.
Okay, and I think it's a testament to Battle Realms that it's still on Steam, it's still on Good Old Games, it's still selling. And it's 20 years old and it's 20-year-old graphics.
Yeah, that's incredible.
I haven't altered the art. I haven't updated the art for 20 years. And people still enjoy playing it. And there's an avid fan base that is still pinging me for changes and for updates and we're doing it. And that's actually what we're using the money from the sale for.
Yeah, I do want to talk to you a bit later about Battle Realms because I did have some questions about that. I think when you brought up the Warcraft 3 taking basically your idea, I actually talked to another Age of Empires developer, and they said, I'm curious if you guys had this at your companies. They said every so and so months they would get together and someone would have a presentation on the other games that were in that genre. So they would play StarCraft, they would play Red Alert, and they would say, oh wow, this is a great concept. How can we do this? This is we don't like this part, we don't want to take that. And is there a fine line between taking someone's ideas for your own selfish good, or is it free for everyone to make every RTS the best it can possibly be? That's a really tough one, right?
Yeah, well, so there's lots of ways to answer that one. I mean, the simplest way to answer that is legally there is really no way to protect the game mechanic.
Right.
So America doesn't have recognition of that as a trademarkable or copyrightable thing, right? Or patentable thing. So from a legal standpoint, it's absolutely legal. From a creator standpoint, I'm torn about it. Because would I love to be super rich because I invented something that got used in a sure, but I don't know. I have a couple of stories along that line, and let me see if I can get through both of them. I'm going to say Warcraft 2 and Warcraft 2 and piracy in Battle Realms, and those are the two things. So I remember showing at an E3. At an early E3, or I think it might have been a CES still at the time, I remember showing Command and Conquer, the original, with its new interface, the bounding box interface, right? Which I don't know if you can remember, but we were the first people to do that. We were the first people to allow you to kind of drag a square around a group of units. Prior to that, you had to individually click on each one.
I didn't know that. Interesting.
And this was all taken from why aren't we using the best interfaces outside the game industry? Because these bounding boxes were things you could do in paint apps. And we showed it off at that show. And I went over to Warcraft 2. And at the time, they were showing off the same old interface of individually clicking on a unit to select it, right? And we had other optimizations as well. There were it was a whole suite of what we'll call kind of Windows 98 style interface, and left and right click and things like this. And the Warcraft guys, the Blizzard guys, spent hours in our booth filming
Really?
our demos.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely. And all of our interface was present in Warcraft 2. They did it, and 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 to that end, I will say, and then I'll do a story that proves it. But I'll say I would rather have the idea proliferate for the benefit of the player than get caught up in the legal control of that.
I get it.
Which isn't even possible to do because the law doesn't protect you. So I've always been that way. And as a matter of fact, when we launched Battle Realms, the Battle Realms had this kind of crappy copy protection that we were forced to use by our publisher. And there were more people having problems with it than being helped by it. And so one of the first patches we did to Battle Realms was removing the copy protection. And that led to it being pirated the world over.
Sure.
Right? I mean, Battle Realms, I've had people from Joyon and Nexon and Tencent tell me that there are millions of copies of Battle Realms, pirated copies of Battle Realms all through Asia,
sure,
where it was very, very popular. And you know what? I'm not bummed about that. I mean, yeah, I didn't become a billionaire over it, but I love that so many people, like, there's a heart joy that comes whenever that fan mail comes in.
Yeah.
Right. There's a piece to that. And I made that decision. I made the decision to remove the piracy. Right. To allow the piracy, I should say, to remove the copy protection. Right. And I didn't have to do that. I could have said, well, suck it up, Buttercup. You know,
right.
This is what we need to do to protect our product. Right. And I didn't do that.
It's such a tough decision, or such a tough thing to look at from. There's so many perspectives, because I remember the same conversation with Heroes Might and Magic. It's a game that was not available a lot in the Balkans, a lot in the Eastern European area, and a lot of people pirate it because of that reason. And yeah, is it right to pirate? Of course not, right? You should pay someone for their work. To this day, though, that's the community that's kept the game alive, that they still do tournaments, they've modded the game. So it's like, you know, it's this fine balance of, like, these people are actually the biggest fans you have, and if there was an opportunity, maybe they would have bought it, maybe they wouldn't have. But the point is, they're the ones that are avidly keeping the game alive 20, 30 years later.
That's right.
So that's
absolutely right. Yeah, and I would have never, there was a time when I might have answered that question a little different.
Sure.
But I always felt a good idea belongs in the hands of the many as opposed to the few.